angels with feet. The image brings a smile to our lips and our hearts, perhaps because it points to a truth beyond our seeing. Christmas is a time of heightened sensitivity to love, to loss, to giving and receiving, walking that thin place between soul time and human time. We are people of flesh and sinew, hunter-gatherers of old, bound by instincts to power and prejudice. And yet we are also bound by our conscience and hearts to go beyond tribal behavior, to care for others who need help, to expand our primitive instincts and to use our life for the good of all humanity and our planet. In this service, I seek to open our hearts to embrace the bad with the good, the chaos with the peace, and the broken with the holy. We truly are angels with feet.
Thank you, Allison. Welcome, everyone. Welcome here to the North Shore Unitarian community. Our mission here is to empower people to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. We welcome all to our caring community where we foster spiritual growth free of dogma and where we inspire actions in the service of life. We have 8 principles and 7 sources, and one of our 7 sources is wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. So welcome to this first Sunday of December. For those of you with Christian roots or leanings, you'll know that today in the Christian calendar is the first Sunday in Advent. And Advent is a time of anticipation. And Christian or not, we can all agree that early December has a sense of anticipation for the celebrations and festivities that are to come. For those of you with Jewish heritage or Jewish connections, you'll know that Hanukkah starts this Thursday, 8 nights, where a candle is lit each night in recognition or celebration of the Jewish rebellion. There's a certain irony to that to us this year, with all going on in the world. And for those of you with no Jewish or Christian connections, maybe some of you have actually just realized that it's December 3rd, and that means we have 22 days of shopping before Christmas, and you're starting to panic. I can see one face in the front row that's definitely panicking. Well, we welcome all here to just relax and enjoy this beautiful service of song and celebration, which will ease us all into the festive spirit, no matter how you celebrate the season. As an invocation and signal that our time here is holy, please will you join me as we light our chalice. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. May the kite of understanding illuminate our darkness. May the warmth of sharing bring us peace. Please let us join our hearts and our voices with the carol, "Deck the Halls with Boughs of Holly."
Domina orge I light this candle of joy despite the sadness. David and I have been blessed with 6 grandchildren. Almost 5 years ago, the 5th one was born, the son of our son Alex and his wife Rika. We call him Jojo. At age 1, he was diagnosed as having a rare genetic disorder called Lesch-Nyhan. Kids with this syndrome are missing one enzyme, and the consequences are severe. He will never sit, walk, or eat solid food. It's unlikely that he will talk. He seems to have perfect control of his eye movements, but little else. As if that wasn't enough, an aspect of the syndrome is that from time to time, these children have an uncontrollable drive to hurt themselves. Jojo, like many kids with Lesch-Nyhan, started obsessively biting the inside of his cheeks at age 2. So his teeth have had to be removed. He wears braces on his elbows and mitts on his hands to prevent him from harming himself. Naturally, there's a lot of sadness. We're sad for the activities that Jojo will never enjoy. He will never play or use his body in all the ways that other children and adults do. He will be reliant on others for his whole life. He can't communicate his wishes, his pains, or his fears. We are sad for Alex and Rika, for the loss of their dreams for their little boy, and the many challenges and limitations in their lives because of his disabilities. We're sad for us as grandparents. It's rare that Jojo gets pleasure from our company. No hugs, no cuddles. We wish we could help them more, but he has such a way with his body that it makes him unwieldy, and it's rare that I've been able to hold or hug him. Jojo is often unhappy and irritable, and it pains us to see him. When he hurts himself, it's a tragic thing to behold. This is the reality, and we've all made peace with that reality. There are many blessings that come with it. First and foremost, we're so impressed with and proud of our son, Alex. The love and respect we feel for our daughter-in-law, Rika, is huge. The two of them are dedicated to Jojo. We are amazed at the love they have and demonstrate in the most difficult of situations. They have risen to the challenges like champs. They do what they need to protect him from his impulses to hurt himself. They always try to stimulate him so he gets pleasure out of life, and he does. They go to the pool, they go to the aquarium, and Alex, who's big and strong, throws him around, and he just loves that. They love their little boy, and he is a well-known figure in their neighborhood. Our family has the love and support of others as well. Our other sons and their wives, our siblings and their kids. My sister lives near them, and she often goes over and will take Jojo out in the stroller for a long walk and give the parents a break. And one of our strong nieces came over from Victoria, and they went to the pool, and she swung him around in the pool, making all sorts of splashes, and he loved it. He shows joy. He smiles really big when he's happy. And these acts of love fill Dave and my hearts and make us feel supported. Friends have also been caring and give us the space to talk about it, and that means a lot. The caregivers that Jojo has had for part of the time and has every week have shown a love of him that verges on magical. They adore him. Another blessing is that we've all learned a lot about life since Jojo was born. One example is I could easily let myself go down the worry road. What's next? These kids have an uncertain life expectancy. Many medical issues arise. How will Alex and Rika cope is one of my biggest ones that I want to go down. But it's really clear that spending a lot of time on that doesn't help anything. So I think we're getting pretty good at staying in the present and dealing with what is. Technology has played a surprisingly helpful role in this blessings. There is on Facebook a group called the Lesch-Nyhan Facebook group, and it's been a tremendous source of information and support for Alex and Rika and us. Other Leshnahan parents talk openly about the challenges that they have with their kids. They provide information and they explain ideas of what works for them. This community helps everybody with the many and changing challenges that arise, and importantly, lets everybody know that they're not the only ones in this situation. The second technological miracle is the phone. And it takes a really long time to feed Jojo every day because he has to eat everything pureed. And sometimes he gets really grumpy and it's hard and it takes a long time. But watching cartoons on the phone with no sound just seems to soothe him and make everything go much better. A lifesaver. The third technological blessing I'll mention is medical science. Jojo is now big brother to little Jamie, who tested negative for Leshnahan when he was but an embryo. He is a miracle and a source of great joy to everyone. And last, despite what you read in the news, I know now more than ever that we live in a wealthy and a caring society. Free medical care is an outcome of that wealth and care. Jojo's had lots of his teeth pulled. Last month he went to Children's Hospital because he'd been crying for 3 days, and there they diagnosed what was wrong with him, treated it, and all is well again. He's provided a special walker that is replaced as he grows larger. Another example of our wealthy and caring society is that he goes to a preschool where he has his own educational assistant. And this preschool feeds into the local elementary school. The biggest blessing of all is Jojo himself. He's a beautiful little boy. The rare occasions when he looks me in the eyes and lets me rub his feet are beyond joyous. The other day, David walked with Rika to walk Jojo to preschool, and they walked all the way, Jojo in the stroller and David holding his hand all the way there. What joy. So thank you for listening, and Allison, thank you for giving me the opportunity to gather my thoughts on this.
Thank you, Chris. This morning, instead of one candle of joy, we're going to see throughout the service a number of candles lit, and each have a line associated with them, and the lines actually come from a poem by Howard Thurman, and so you'll see those throughout the service. But at this moment, I'm going to light the one other candle we usually light in the service, and that's the candle of global concern. You know, at this time of year that is based on a story in Bethlehem, there's just irony thinking about people right now in Israel and Gaza trying to stay alive. We think of those folks in Ukraine in those long, dark, cold days of winter. And we realize how closely grief, or even despair, is tied to joy. So, in lighting this candle of global concern, we send a wish, maybe even a desperate prayer, into the world that one day, all in the world will know that they are safe and know that they're loved.
Cuando se aquieta el canto de los ángeles.
Nur adfel bandrionach anzanatar.
כשהמלכים והניסים נסיכים בבית.
Lorsque les bergers seront de retour avec leurs troupeaux.
Найти потерянного.
Atleka de trasiga. die Hungrigen zu speisen.
Le shachar et ha-asir.
Obnoviť národy.
为他人带来和平。
Sudarit muzika širdie.
I will light a candle of hope amid the despair. There was a time in my life when I fell into despair. I grieved that global warming would render the planet uninhabitable, not only for my descendants, but for all life, people, plants, animals, bugs, fish, birds. Practitioners of ecopsychology have coined a word for this condition, solastalgia. While I was tempted to go numb or live out the rest of my days in a fantasy land, denying the evidence, becoming a grandmother took those options off the table. My partner, my children, and their children needed me to stay emotionally healthy to care for them. And that meant expanding my circle of caring, however I knew how, to fight for the solutions that will keep the Earth from the tipping points of no return. What rescued me from the overwhelm? A new understanding of what it is to hope. I remembered the practice outlined by the Buddhist Joanna Macy in her book, Active Hope, beginning with gratitude for the world, then honoring my pain for it, facing the facts with fresh eyes, then going forth into action, ever spiraling back to stage one of gratitude and beginning the cycle again. In the poetry of Adrian Rich, I learned to find common cause with others who refuse to give in to despair. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. In other words, echoing the phrase that we heard from Bruce on this chancel just last Sunday, look for the helpers, said Mr. Rogers. Especially important in a week of high-stakes news headlines from Dubai. For inspiration in bleak times, I keep these comments on hope pinned above my desk. They were written by Václav Havel, translated from Czech into English. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same as joy that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously heading for success, but rather an ability to work for something that is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed. The more unpropitious the situation in which we demonstrate hope, the deeper the hope is. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. Regardless of how it turns out. I won't ever know if my efforts made a difference, but my new understanding of hope brings me back from the brink of despair. In the words of Mary Hegler from her essay, "Home is always worth it." Even if I can save only a sliver of what is precious to me, that will be my sliver and I will treasure it. If I can salvage just one blade of grass, I will do it. I will make a world out of it, and I will live in it and for it. I'd like to end with a paraphrase from a Wendell Berry poem that's in our hymn book. In fact, every author and quotation I mentioned today has come to me through involvement with this congregation or the wider Unitarian movement. I still experience despair for the world, and I wake in the night in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. But I will fight to protect the peace of wild things by lighting my candle of hope and passing it on. And now, please rise as you're able and join in singing In the Bleak Midwinter.
I light this candle of courage for fears ever present. There was a time in my life when I was really struggling. In my darkest time, I relied on the resilience I gained from how I was raised in a small, tight-knit community. I grew up on a farm in the mountains of the BC Kootenays, in a town called Edgewood. People in Edgewood believed in me, and I learned to believe in myself. This confidence from my childhood has helped me face fears and get through tough times. Now, a major challenge for me was engineering school in downtown Toronto. City life was a major shock for me. I could have given up many times, but I persevered. Adversity started right away when I arrived in Toronto. I thought it would be a good idea to arrive early to get the feel of things before school started. I left home 10 days early. My family was poor, and I was alone at 17 when I was turned away at U of T because residence didn't even open yet. So I was sad and shocked, and I had nowhere to stay for 10 days. I was an unprepared small-town hick, but I persevered, and I struggled through adjusting to first-year university, where grade 13 in Ontario meant I was a full year behind in my studies. I worked very hard to survive in first year, and by second year, I had a mental breakdown, where I did not leave my room for a number of days. But because I had community support and resilience, I made it through. On top of other challenges, I found there were few women in my program, and the atmosphere was actually very hostile and sexist. And I coped with this by embracing women's studies, the women's studies faculty. As a teenager, I had told my mom that feminism was unnecessary. However, my engineering experience showed me otherwise. I took an independent study project to interview female engineers. There were a lot of tears and support with these discussions, and I learned from my mentor, Ursula Franklin, to be an anthropologist, documenting all the strange things I observed. Once a male student made a very public display in class, giving me a typed-up note saying, "Please be quiet and don't waste our valuable time." And this did not deter me. I continued to participate in class because I had the resilience to keep going. After graduating, I went on to do a PhD in engineering, and I ended up the owner of an engineering consulting company. Who would have known? A long way from my small town start. So in my work, I've learned to take risks and not be afraid to fail. I've noticed often that people are afraid to try to achieve something because of fear of failure. The key to learning to take risks that I've come through from my experiences is to have courage to accept failure is inevitable and okay. It's a part of the learning process. The major things I've accomplished have been the result of great patience and perseverance. You just need to keep trying your best. Even if it doesn't look like anything will come of the effort, by trying, you can change the world a little bit. Just putting in the effort and showing up. So how does one get the courage to keep trying to risk failure? I think it all comes down to believing in yourself. I recall a story that I'll end with a young cousin visiting us. She was about 4 years old, and she watched my daughter Neve sailing through the air to grab a trapeze and swinging across the room. She was much smaller than Neve, and it seemed impossible that she'd be able to make the leap from the living room furniture to the trapeze. There was a mat on the floor, and she literally fell on her face a number of times. Eventually, she asked Neve, she said, how do you do that? What do I need to do to succeed? And at age 10, Neve said, "You just need to believe in yourself." It was the sweetest thing. All the parents in the room were like so happy that this had happened, and the girl kept trying. She eventually made the leap. But the story really stuck with me. And I want to say that Allison Nixon has been a really important community leader and role model for my girls, Neve and Ursula. I'm so happy she remains in our lives, supporting us to have the courage to fail, learn, and live our lives to the fullest. Thank you, Allison, for helping to believe in ourselves. And thank you to this community for believing in each member and helping us to bounce back when we need to remember to believe in ourselves.
Thank you, Rena. The next song that the choir is going to sing is This Little Babe. I do it often at Christmas. It has an energy like nothing else, but it is so spectacularly non-Unitarian that I just felt I had to do a disclaimer. In so many ways, it's not. But I incorporated it, and I've done it before here, but I've never put the words up. But this year, I'm putting up the words because this service is about finding holiness in what is human and finding humanness in what is holy. So I put up the words and leave it to your wonderful discretion as to what you decide to take on board and what you will abandon.
Viva
I light this candle for peace, for tempestuous days. I was 14 years old when my oldest sister, Claudia, sorry, it's just my glasses, which is like my mother, got married. I never liked the guy she chose. I wasn't happy. I don't know what it was about him, but I just had this intense feeling that she was going to go through really hard times with him. On the day of the wedding, I cried and cried the entire ceremony and the party. I know. I just wanted to finish high school to go and live with her because I was at that time in my hometown, Tampico, and she was in Guadalajara. So, long story short, I was living with her by the time I was 18. She was pregnant, and I became the second mother of her 2 kids, Sabina and Fernando. And she indeed went through really rough times, very difficult marriage with this guy. It wasn't physical violence, but it was mental, emotional, and the guy was a con artist and a thief. He not only never worked, but he stole money from her and asked for money in her name. Anyways, many other stuff bad happened, and it was very hard for all of us, for the kids, for my sister, for me. I became really angry with life after that, and I was always in a defensive mode, and always trying to protect my sister and the kids, right? Always, the world for me was like whoever wants to approach them, oh, I'm here, right? At the end, they divorced, of course, but all that anger and frustration was really hard for me. And I was surviving, I was fighting the war. It wasn't until I was 20 years old that I joined a choir. And of course, I didn't know how to read music or anything. And I would learn everything by ear, but I just loved it, right? And I felt so interested. And a couple years later, I went to university to study music. And then a completely different world opened in front of me. It was so transformative, healing, and I just kept going and going. Music, and of course singing in particular for me, has been an escape and has taught me that even when things are really ugly and times are hard, there is always beauty. And singing for me is all about feelings and emotions and trying to pass these things along to other people. For people to feel a little bit of what I'm feeling, right? These beautiful things that I feel. It does not matter what language you're singing. It matters what you're able to share with people and hopefully help someone that is going through a rough patch like I was when my sister got married. The great part of all of this is that we have our beautiful kids, as I said, Fernando and Sabina. And as a matter of fact, they also came to live with me to do some high school. And I do not have kids of my own, but I always say that I have the best kids, that I do have the best kids, because I have all the love, but I don't have to pay for them.
Made the same mistake before. Too many holy night, to hear an angel voice through the chaos and the noise. I need a midnight clear, a little peace right here, to end this crazy day with a silent night. December comes and disappears, faster and faster every year. Did my own mother keep this pace, or was the world a different place, where people stay home wishing for snow, watching 3 channels on their TV? Look at us now, we're rushing around trying to buy Christmas peace. I need a silent night, a holy night, to hear an angel voice through the chaos and the noise. I need a midnight clear, a little peace right here, to end this crazy day with a silent night. What was it like back there in Bethlehem, with peace on earth, goodwill towards men? I need a silent night, a holy night, to hear an angel's voice through the chaos and the noise. I need a midnight clear, a little peace right here, to end this crazy day with a silent night. To end this crazy day with a silent night.
I light this candle of grace to ease heavy burdens. How many of us have heard someone speak about someone else or another group of people as if they have no light in them, as if they just carry darkness? That's not the way it is. And I'm going to tell 3 short stories. I am Mary. I am Mary of the streets of Montreal. And there was a time when I sat in my life when I sat on the cold, hard pavements of Montreal. I begged for $1 in the hope of my next fix, and my Joseph laid his hand on my growing belly. We were blessed with new life. But oh, what a world were we bringing this child into. I too had traveled many moonless nights, cold and weary, with a babe inside. Is my babe also a child of you, holy love? Am I too known by you, with my addiction and my prostitution? O light and love, am I too unworthy to be seen by you, O great mystery? No, I know you see me. I feel your presence within me, and I know you love me, and you love my unborn child, just as we are. I I'm Mary. I was raised in a brothel and have just given birth to my first child. Child of my womb, breath of my life, your breath is my breath. Your breath is the breath of heaven. In the love that I feel for you, my child, I know now that I too am loved. Oh, but I am scared, and I fear for his life as I fear for my own. Oh, breath of heaven, lighten my darkness. Pour over me your holiness. You are holy. Ben, my son, and I were on a 2-hour pass from Riverview Hospital. That's a psychiatric unit. He was very sick with schizophrenia. He was so excited because he really wanted to buy some new pants, the kind with the brand name on them that cost way too much. So I said, okay, here's $30. It was 15 years ago. We were going to Value Village. I said I was going to look at women's coats. Time passed, and I realized I hadn't seen him for a little while. My heart leapt. I searched the entire store, starting to panic, racing outside, imagining the very worst. But there he was. He was sitting on the ground next to a homeless man. We were chatting about something. I rushed over, grateful and angry simultaneously. Ben, I thought you were buying pants. No, said Ben. I gave my money to Joe. He needs it more than I do. In my head, I'm going, yeah, sure. He needs it for the next fix. But Ben quietly looked at me as we walked back to the car. Mom, Joe is a person just like you and me. But Ben, he's just going to spend the money on drugs and alcohol. Mom, it's his life. We only have to help. Grace is everywhere. And Vox Lumina is now going to sing Breath of Heaven.
Many moonless
I light this candle of love to inspire all my living. The births of my 3 children were the beginnings of the love that has inspired all my living. I rightly figured it is easy to love your newborns, and yet I discovered to my surprise that each love was different. My love for each child seemed to depend at least partly on their innate personalities, along with both who I was and my circumstances at the time. Having a grandchild was an even greater leap. Rena's birth was very long and very difficult. Did I love her? Silly question. Of course I did. We got home, and despite my exhaustion, I delighted in this new person, this amazing being. Did I have a clue what love meant? Not such a silly question, I discovered, when my tiny baby got very sick at 1 week old. Suddenly, we were crossing the ferry, racing to the hospital, another 40 miles away. For the 3 days we were checked into the hospital while they tried to figure out a diagnosis, I became aware of the most fierce love possible. Now we have our mutual adult love. Deborah's birth was easy and only 18 months after Rena's. Now I had 2 babies. Unlike Rena, Deborah was always hungry, and she demanded everything this instant. Was she easy to love? Of course, I guess. She was very cute, especially as she got older. We talked about it as adults, and now we have our mutual adult love. Jasmine's birth came 6 years after Deb's. Early on, I was admitted to hospital and warned that I was unlikely to hold on to the pregnancy. At the time, my life was in turmoil, and having another child did not look like an attractive or sensible option. And then love struck. This was a knowing love. I came home knowing I would have this baby, and knowing I loved her unreservedly. At birth, she looked around, appeared to sigh, and accept her new lot in life. At that point, I experienced steady love for her, and now we have our mutual love. So there were my 3 children and my 3 introductions to love. And then there was the grand surprise. The love to inspire all my living. From the moment I learned there might be a grandchild coming soon, I felt love for all babies, for all children. I was teaching high school at the time, and my relationship with my students instantly shifted. I had always cared very much for them, but I recognized that I didn't love them. I wanted to feel that warm love that I saw in some people like Auntie Joan, and now I felt it. And it wasn't my imagination. My students felt it too. One of my favorite moments came when a former student was visiting me, and she was telling me her plans. I must have looked concerned, because before continuing, she looked me in the eye and said, "Ms. Freed, I know you love me."
It's now time for the offering. Our December outreach recipient this year is the Congregational Support Fund, which is formally called the Pastoral Discretionary Fund. This fund is used to assist congregants in need. If anyone knows of someone, or if you yourself are in need, please speak to Leslie Gibbons or Marga Hanna. Will the ushers please come forward to take the offering?
Stable
announcements. The life of this church is vibrant in so many ways, and in doing so we nurture those within this community and those in the wider community beyond these walls. So a few announcements. We're collecting for the Lookout Shelter. There's a basket in the lobby. They're looking for mitts and hats and personal items, so contribute as you are able, please. Similarly, we're collecting for the Christmas Bureau this year, and we're specifically collecting items for seniors and for youth. More information about both these collection initiatives will be found in the e-bulletin and on the website. We're hoping you'll come downstairs for sandwiches afterwards. Diane has been busy this morning making us wonderful sandwiches. So we hope we'll have coffee and sandwiches with you. And a little teaser for next week's service. It's entitled War and Peace, ... The world is in a crazy place, a hamster wheel of war and much more. And it just seems, how do we make sense of all that? So please join Leslie Gibbons and friends as we discuss that in next week's service.
And Diane would like you to know there's ice cream too.
The heavens have spoken. Let us prepare to leave this place with the singing of Go Tell It on the Mountain. Please rise as you're able. into our hearts. We extinguish this flame, but carry with us light of vision and the warmth of hope. The world calls us, it calls to us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose.
We go forth with courage and love.
So how do we get the Christmas spirit this year? I have a task for you all. I want you to take your favorite playlist and your best headphones. I'd like you to sit in a mall for no less than 10 minutes with your headphones on and find the hardest, how do I put this? The person who looks hardest to love. You know, the ones where it just makes you go, oh no. And your task is to find vulnerability in that person. Find the hopelessness, find the shame, find the loss, find the grief, find the anxiety, and see the layers upon layers that they've put on themselves to protect themselves, and reach out with compassion to that person while listening to that beautiful music. Go in peace, know that you are loved, and know that you are loved. Amen. We're going to finish with Deck the Halls. Yeah, just the third verse of Deck the Halls.
Pass away the old year passes by.